Hello, my name is Reverend Dr. May Elise Cannon. Today is Wednesday. It's December 18th. Today is day 430. I started daily prayers this morning with this prayer from the Little Hours or the Little Book of Hours. And it says, O great creator of the earth, cleanse the wounds of our souls. With the freshness of your grace, destroy wrong impulses, and let us be filled with your good things. Amen. I feel like I need that at the end of the day, even more than I did at the beginning. O great creator of the earth, cleanse the wounds of our souls with the freshness of your grace. Destroy wrong impulses and let us be filled with your good things. Amen. That's my prayer as I go into another day of rough news from the Middle East. Hear these things, use them as fodder for prayer. I got an email in my inbox today from The Intercept. It was highlighting how earlier this month, Amnesty International published their devastating 300-page report documenting the fact that Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. And how did Congress respond? They asked, by passing legislation banning the Pentagon from publicly citing the death toll in Gaza, as reported by the Gaza Health Ministry. So that defense bill was passed today in the Senate. It was a must-pass bill. It included the death toll provision. That passed 281 to 140 in the House with 81 Democratic votes. It received very little attention. Maybe it will now that the defense bill is passed. But essentially, it bars the Pentagon from publicly citing as authoritative casualty data coming out of Gaza, the health ministry there. This effectively conceals the full extent, this is The Intercept saying this, the full extent of the death toll in Gaza in the military's public communications. The data from Palestinian authorities has been the only consistent and reliable count of the death toll out of Gaza the last 14 months. Israel consistently denies human rights workers access to the enclave and prevents foreign media journalists from entering. So, we know, according to those numbers, the minimum amount killed directly from bombings, directly from the conflict, is now more than 45,000 people in Gaza. Hamas yesterday said that a Gaza hostage ceasefire agreement is possible, that the talks are positive. Separately, a Palestinian official said that the negotiations are in a decisive and final phase, though an Israeli source cautioned that a deal was still potentially weeks away. Israeli airstrikes killed at least 20 people across Gaza yesterday, according to the health ministry. So these are the types of things that our defense ministry will not be able to cite, that 20 people were killed in Gaza yesterday. A group of Palestinians and their American relatives yesterday filed a lawsuit accusing the U.S. State Department of creating loopholes for Israel based on a 1997 law that prohibits the U.S. from providing military support when there is credible evidence of gross human rights abuses. You'll recall there have been several mechanisms this year that would insist that the U.S. withhold weapons from Israel. There was the Security Memorandum 20. There were also, laws that demand that the U.S. not send weapons to places where there's evidence that U.S. weapons are being used in violation of U.S. laws and international humanitarian or human rights law. And, the U.S. State's Department even did analysis. They did analysis according to the Leahy laws, where there were 5 different units that were shown to be in violation of human rights laws. And then the State Department said, but those units are self-regulating. Several of them were found to be in violation. And then the State Department said, but they have fixed those issues. So this is now a lawsuit addressing potential loopholes. Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar yesterday criticized his Australian counterpart over what he claimed was Australia distancing itself from Israel in its most difficult year. The U.S. yesterday imposed sanctions on 2 people, one from the UAE, the United Arab Emirates, it's a based entity, over alleged involvement in a North Korean money laundering network. So look at how the world's connected. Iran's Revolutionary Guards Corps now control up to half of the oil exports from Iran, the country's principal connection to the global economy, Western officials, security sources, and insiders from Iran have reported. A top UN official yesterday pushed Security Council members and Iran to urgently work to restore a 2015 deal that lifted sanctions on Tehran in return for restrictions on its nuclear program. So this is a version of Obama's, Iran deal. And so there's top UN official yesterday who's pushing for that to be restored. Turning to Syria, Netanyahu, Prime Minister of Israel, yesterday said that Israeli troops will remain in Syria until another arrangement is found that guarantees Israel's security, while visiting the area over which Israel recently took control. A ceasefire between Turkey and the US-backed Syrian defense forces around the city of Manbij has been extended until the end of this week. This is a very limited geographic area, but Turkish-backed forces and Kurdish-backed forces have a ceasefire in that area until the end of this week. Around 1 million refugees are expected to return to Syria in the first 6 months of 2025. Many of those will be from Lebanon, some from Jordan, from other parts of the Middle East and the world. The UN Special Envoy for Syria yesterday warned that the conflict has not ended with Assad's ousting, highlighting clashes between the Turkish-backed and Kurdish groups in the north. We're still keeping a close eye. I had mentioned that there were Turkish forces that had aligned at the Syrian border, but whether or not there may be an incursion in coming days. The US is engaging with the UN to ensure that, quote, the Syrian people get answers and accountability over atrocities committed by the Assad regime. That was spokesperson Miller from the State Department who said that yesterday. Special prayers, please. We have a staff member who has family in Syria, and he shared with us some reports about Turkish-backed fighters who've been targeting the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese in Hama in Syria. Images were shared on social media. They also now have been published in the Greek City Times. They showed pictures of vandalization, decapitated statues, Virgin Mary crushed, destroyed cemetery stones. The report also indicated random killings in private residences' homes. So please pray for Christians in Syria. Pray particularly for that area where there still has been significant violence between those Turkish-backed forces and those Kurdish-backed Syrian defense forces, which the U.S. also supports. Pray also for the Tent of Nations. We'll continue to give you updates about their land registration process in the days ahead. And thank you, for the hundreds of people who have joined us on live or since in our vigil today, our International Advent Not Arms prayer vigil. You can still sign that petition to the State Department and to President Biden. Today the prayer vigil was really beautiful. Many ecumenical voices, different languages and places around the world, literally time zones from the east to the west, calling for justice, peace, the laying down of arms, a new way forward, that the love of Christ would lead the way. Might God go before us. You can watch that on our YouTube channel. You don't want to miss the words of, the Palestinian Bishop of Djibouti, Reverend Ashraf of the Evangelical Lutheran Church of the Holy Land, esteemed leaders from the South African Church, a bishop from Japan, and so many others. And join us on Friday for the Christ in the Rebel service with Reverend Dr. Munther Itzhak as well. So may God go before us as Advent is approaching. We're holding on to hope and waiting for hope to come. May the Lord be with us. In the name of Christ. Amen.